Picture the scene. You're sitting around a coffee table with your very best friends, and they are telling you about an issue in their family that has made them infuriated. They're angry, they're spitting mad, they're swearing, they're performing, they're throwing their toys out the cot. And you're sitting at that coffee table and you're going, do you know, this wouldn't worry me a little bit. And vice versa, of course. You know, you tell them how you triggered and what's really peeving you off, and they're going, not a problem for them. We are all hardwired vastly, vastly differently. So I gave you a story of mates around a coffee table, but of course, you know, there are also within your family. You could even be a twin. So I could have a twin sister, and our brains would be hardwired very, very differently. So I'm going to speak to you about the Enneagram, and I'm going to speak to you about your temperament, and in a fun way, how to really be more observant about the language that you use and possibly which of the 9 types you were born. So join me on this little keynote about the Enneagram and how to be self-aware. So let's have some fun with this Enneagram. And first of all, what is the Enneagram? It's a 2,500-year-old personality system. And I'll be doing a masterclass on this, so you'll find out more about it. But for now, let's have fun with the 9 personality types of the Enneagram. So today I'm going to start off with type 1 and just give you a few fun sayings around type 1, and we'll go right around the Enneagram, which is a circle, it's a triangle, and there's a hexag within the system. So it's really interesting. Pythagoras used it as well. So let's start off with the type 1. We often call the type 1 the perfectionist or the reformer. So if you think about your friends or family members who in your close community are saying these types of words, they are saying, I have to get this right. I have to have all of this attention to detail. If it's not perfect, we are not going to get going. So those kinds of words, I should, I must, I ought to. Just think about who you know that uses those types of words. It's either right or it's wrong. Now let's go on to the type 2. The type 2 is often called the helper. Very, very people orientated. And these would be the kind of words they would say. Are you okay? How are you really, really feeling? No, not just the transactional stuff. How are you truly and really feeling? Let me know, can I help? Is there anything I can do for you? I'll put away work, I'll put away all my family commitments this weekend. You are my very best friend. What can I do for you? Now let's get on to the type 3. And actually, I was born a type 3. I always find this the most difficult part of the Enneagram discussion. And because kind of we look at our fears as each of these types. We look at our desires. We look at our motivators. This is a very deep system that today we are just choosing to have a bit of fun with and to ignite your curiosity about how are people speaking to you. And perhaps you could really just figure out which of the 9 types they were born. So getting on to the type 3, the achiever is sometimes what we call the type 3. These are their catchphrases. And I'm reading here, otherwise I'll just ad-lib and, do my 3-ness. So the catchphrases they have is, I need to get this goal achieved by the 15th of December 2022, and when I've got that done, I have another 3 goals lined up. I'm obviously overplaying it. I mean, I wish I had certain goals for the 15th of December, but that's typically a type 3. It's, what are we doing? Where are we going? What does success look like pragmatically? So that was 1, 2, 3. We've done 3 of them. Now let's get on to the type 4. The type 4 is vastly different to the first 3 that I've described. Far deeper, more kind of, soulful and quite dramatic sometimes. So they're called the individualist. You might even see what they wear. They're quite creative in how they put themselves together. Even in their office space, they could hang a scarf or, put up a beautiful picture. Very, very aware of their ergonomics around them. And these could be the words that you hear in your family or perhaps your friends. You wouldn't understand. I feel it deep, deep down. not exactly kind of in the mood for doing this project. I feel like I need to, I don't know, there's stuff within me that I want to unravel and come to terms with. So you can hear even the tonality, it's beautifully deep, it's beautifully emotionally aware. The type 4 is the individualist. Now we're going to get on to the type 5, and in fact my late husband was the type 5. And it was always intriguing, and it might be intriguing for you if you're in a relationship, your personality type and your partner's personality type. So my late husband as the type 5 was always investigating. And actually that's what we often call the type 5, the investigator. In fact, I said to him, what did you do, after your studies? And he said, I loved the outdoors, and I loved walking in the KwaZulu-Natal, Drakensberg in South Africa, at these tall mountains, and looking at all the small flowers that grow at 30,000 feet or whatever it was. My type 3-ness was like, okay, what are you going to use that information for? Are you going to put it in a book? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to make money out of that? And he said, no, it's pure investigation and pure pleasure. So the type 5s are often heard to be saying, for what it's worth, I think we need to, investigate this because this is what's really interesting and that could add value, or I'm not going to really give you any opinion without the facts to back it up. So that's the kind of phraseology you hear when the type 5s are speaking. Now let's get on to the type 6s. The type 6s are called the loyalists. And in fact, I have a 22-year-old daughter who's a type 6. And she's just come back from a great business trip in Zimbabwe and Zambia. And she went with one of her colleagues. And her colleague said, you only in 10 days have to attend the one event, which was Zambia's Independence Day. And the 9 days beforehand, she could have played on this business trip. But the commitment and the dedication and the loyalty of the type 6 to attend every meeting, to do everything that she's committed to, that she really has said she will do and go above and beyond. So the type 6s are always saying, are you sure? Shouldn't we do it this way? So double checking what's going on. And quite sadly, with their great intellect and their great zest for commitment, also sometimes unsure of themselves. So saying things like, I don't know if I can trust that, I don't know if it's true, I don't know if I should do that. So a lot of deliberation and indecision, and what if we did it vastly differently? So look at that, we've done 6 types, and now we are going to get on to the type 7, the enthusiast. So the enthusiast, I think the name says it all. I like to describe the enthusiasts going to buy an ice cream. So they go to that big chest freezer, they look down and quickly make that decision. Right, I'm going to go for that raspberry ice cream. They pay for it and they get it. They haven't even taken their first lick and they're going, that choc mint looks delicious. I should have gone for the choc mint. So it's all about the gluttony of what else? Let's try something else. Let's get that variety going. And very often we hear that in languaging as well. So come on, have you tried? Let's all go and do this. Let's spontaneously just get on a bus and get here, or catch a plane and try this holiday. In fact, I coached a type 7 yesterday, and she said, I would be a lot wealthier if I didn't have the spontaneity of the type 7, because I'm forever just going, yep, I'm in for this, and just getting on that train, bus, aeroplane, doing some extremely exciting adventures with my friends, but not thinking through, is it good timing? Should I be spending the budget on that? I've just had a holiday a month ago. So it's all about fun and the silver lining and everything, which is quite magnificent when you listen to how they speak. And now we're going to get on to the type 8. The type 8 is what we call the challenger. Very forward thinking, very decisive, call a spade a shovel, very honest, and really, really want to challenge the status quo. So they sometimes make a whole lot of change in business and in life with a lot of gusto and a lot of the ability to fail forward. I often think to myself, I wish I had some of that type 8 in me. And of course we do, because we have all of the 9 types within us. So what would you hear the type 8 speaking about? This would be these kinds of linguistics. I make the orders around here, I make the decisions, I drive things forward, and I want action fast. Let me make sure that this is done, and let's absolutely push the boundaries, even if we all burn out in the interim. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but it's like push forward, be strategic, make these decisions, and let's go gung-ho at a hell of a speed. Okay, this is getting right now to the end of the Enneagram. So we've gone from the 1 and we're right now at the 9. And the 9 is right on the top of the Enneagram. We call the 9 the peacemaker. So they're holistically looking at things. They're pulling elements and kind of components of a system together in a very quiet, peacemaking way. Sometimes they're called the mediator because they see things from this perspective or from that perspective and from both perspectives. So the kinds of phrases they would use, the catchphrases, would be, I'm so sorry. If it's up to you, I don't know. I don't understand. I'm not sure what we should do. In fact, I will just go with the flow. I will do whatever you want to do. So it's that ability to keep the peace, the ability to kind of see what's happening, but not go gung-ho into things. And there are assets to that as well. And the assets are a beautifully calm brain and ability to observe before taking action. So that brings me to having done the full circle of the 9 types. And after this now, we're going to get into a bit of a chat with my great friend Nsiki Makize around really how she's using the Enneagram in her life and what she's seeing in her business. And some other questions around how can we really be more mindful around the type that we were born. So our self-awareness. And I'll use my phrase that I love to use, the Aristotle phrase, knowing thyself is the beginning of wisdom.
Become Better, the story about how you will grow as an entrepreneur. Now, it's great that you've got your business, you've got your product and services out there, and you've learned a little bit about yourself on the journey. So what you want to think about is, what am I not good at? Like, where do I suck at doing what I'm trying to do? And if you know where you're not strong, go find help. Speak to other entrepreneurs that might be further along on your journey. Speak to other people who might be in a different industry but have figured out the same problems that you're also trying to solve. It's always good to find a mentor, and if all else fails, there's lots of free videos online, and you can go watch those and learn from other people and their success stories or where they've failed so you can do different. It's also really good to self-assess. Think about what are some things that you can do better that allow you to show up better. And if you can do better as a person, you can do better in running and managing your business. A quick reflection, just to take some quiet time. Think about how you've handled some challenges in your businesses. Think about how you could have been better in certain instances in your business. Think about how you deal with people that work with you and how you deal with customers and how you deal with suppliers. In each of those spaces, there's different things to improve. And if you can improve, you get better. If you get better, you grow. And if you grow, your business can be successful. Look out for our next action steps. Hello and welcome to HybriCON 2022. Now, if you've been joining us since last week, I'm sure your brain is filled with so much incredible and helpful information. And today was one of my favorites, I must say, not just because Joni is my friend, but because I really do believe in utilizing the Enneagram. And she gave us a lovely insight on how do you use the Enneagram to help you be a bit more self-aware. So Joni, let's talk about that a little bit. And I love how you ended your session with the first prompt question. So I know you're dying to always be very practical about how things are utilized. And you always share things with a very practical approach on, this is what would make sense for you, so let's get it done. Right? So you were going to ask me?
Yes, and we were laughing in the break because we know each other so well and we've co-delivered the Enneagram together. And in my typical type 3-ness is like, Nsiki, how are you using the Enneagram practically on a day-to-day basis in your life?
Yeah, so I use Enneagram very much around the scatterbrainness of the type 7. So I'm a type 7. And I know that when I get stressed out that, things kind of go into a little bit of a flurry.
Yes.
So I'm very mindful to have specific structure in place to make sure that, okay, cool, this is what you're doing, this is the deadline, this is the project, get it done before you follow the next exciting thing. And just being very, very deliberate about that kind of action. And that's how I use the Enneagram every single day. And I know you're quite deliberate about it as well. I think people might also enjoy hearing, because I know you apply the Enneagram differently for yourself in your business, and then when you're dealing with your husband, as well as dealing with your children and friends. So how does that show up for you on a daily basis?
So on a daily basis, my growth journey with the Enneagram, and that's why it's such a beautiful system, as you know, Nsiki, is that it's the self-awareness tool that you never get tired of, because you continue to grow to the high levels of psychological, high levels of behavior. So on a daily basis, I'm very mindful of, I can be polarized in task, and then forget about my feelings. So in the need to achieve and get points on the scoreboard, I can put my feelings aside. And even with some big trauma issues. So I've learned to integrate those. I've learned to go, okay, the task is important, but is it really as important as that friend who needs me, or my two daughters who you know well, 22 and 24, or my husband? So I'm far less of a workaholic in my older age, and really mindful of daily navigating my emotions. I always use that phrase, emotions drive people, and people drive performance. So tapping in here.
And you do so well at that. And I think it's important for people to realize that it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's one of the reasons why I love the Enneagram as a system, is that you can use the tool to help you tap into the strengths and lift you up to get to that healthy level. One of the things I wanted to ask is, when you started talking, you spoke about, when somebody else is throwing their toys out the cart, and you're like, that wouldn't bother me just in the slightest. How do we exercise compassion for the styles that are so vastly different to how we would naturally respond?
The compassionate kind of interplay in the dance between people who are so different to you is like, it just helped me understand. So, I'll just paint a scenario. I got remarried again 5 years ago to a type 6, and my youngest daughter is a type 6. And we'll sit at the dinner table, and they will be absolutely terrified and nervous and suspicious and anxious and about a topic. And it could be as simple as, we've got a family lunch on Sunday, and it's probably going to rain. So they'll see the glass half empty, and my facial expression will go, and the problem is?
Why is that an issue?
So it's so instead of getting into judgment mode, getting into the help me understand mode, because actually there's very often, I've got to be honest, where they've cautioned me, both of them, against stuff. And my brain's just gone, can do, it's not going to be a problem. And with their little cautionary anxiety notes underneath, I go like, actually, I possibly wouldn't have thought about that. And even from my 22-year-old. So it's beautiful to just admire, it doesn't matter what the age, who it is, that they can bring pearls of wisdom, and therefore really, really be intrigued and curious to understand other people's mindsets.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think being able to see the value in that and bring in a different kind of wisdom that you wouldn't have naturally is very helpful. I'm curious about people who are thinking, okay, that's jolly good, but what about EQ, And I feel like the people in my life aren't intelligent and they're not navigating well, and I'm always the one that has to be good. How do you know when someone is just not doing well in their type, so they're in that unhealthy space, versus, and which requires compassion, versus going, this is how this person is choosing to be, so.
It could be a choice, and it could be a low emotional intelligence. So it could be one and the same. And what the Enneagram gives you is a set of behaviors, as you know, for the healthy, the average, and the unhealthy. So it's very interesting to watch people who have been performing well and very self-aware, and in terms of interpersonal skills are really skilled. And then they become myopic, and they become, on the border of narcissistic. So you watch them slide down the scales, and then actually this is called a tool of compassion. So then you've got to go like, don't judge them, but like, hey, if it's a 7 and you're scattered and you're not getting stuff done, it's like, how can I help you, kind of start that project and complete it.
Get somewhere better. I like that. We're going to take a quick break. Afterwards, we're going to find out from Joni, how exactly can you use the Enneagram to be more self-aware? Hello and welcome back to HybriCON 2022 with myself and Ziggy Mkhize. I'm speaking to Joni, Peddie on how to utilize the Enneagram to help you be more self-aware. Now, I like the quick pitch that you gave us on the different styles and the kind of language that they use. And one of the immediate things that came to mind was our love languages. And I remember when you're describing the two, I was like, I think that's the kind of love I need. I need like, be caring, be gentle with me, reach out, that kind of thing. But I was wondering, when you hear somebody speaking in their natural language, are people articulating who they are, how they show up, how they see things, or are they articulating what they need back? Because you as a type 3, if you talk a lot of achievement language, do I connect with you better by coming to you in achievement language?
Excellent question, Nsiki. So I just want to kind of give context and then answer your question. So one of the other reasons I love the Enneagram is it's based on fears as well. So each of the 9 types has their own fear that drives their desires, that drives their motivators, that drives their attitude, that drives their view on the world, and their languaging. So how we think, how we feel, and how we language. And it could be both.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a legal answer. It's both. Because I could be speaking to you in an achievement language and actually wanting you to recognize that, recognize the measurables, the deliverables, the time frames, etc., etc. But I could be speaking to you as the type 2 that you mentioned, the helper, and actually really looking for some love. Because the fear of the type 2 is not being loved. So it could, it's not a cookie cutter approach. So I'm in the movie of saying, hey, Nsiki, how are you feeling? Do you want me to just be the listener in this conversation? Sharing some relationship issues, or do you want me to step in and kind of ask provocative questions, or do you want me to step over and above and say, hey, what are your options here in this relationship?
Yeah, I quite like that because that's an indicator of good relationship with people. We can figure out how do we walk this journey together and exercise really good EQ and how we show up for one another in work, at home, in business, whatever it may be. So you've got a brain on your lap.
Yes, my famous brain.
The famous brain that goes everywhere. And really what I want to highlight with that is for people who are thinking, shucks, but I've been this way my whole life. I've always been aggressive in this way. I've always been needy in this way. And these might be labels that other people have put on you without realizing that you were just living in your natural temperament. So can you talk to us a little bit about neuroplasticity and how we can work out of a very rigid, specific type of style and celebrating the different styles that do exist within us?
So neuroplasticity, we all know, is the brain can change, and radically, because we can grow 700 new brain cells per day, times 365 times however old you are. If you eat well, move well, and sleep well, listen tonight for my bounce forward with resilience talk at 6:30. And we've really got to be, again, mindful of the labels. I think you said that so beautifully, Nsiki, is the labels we give ourselves. And the kind of, belly up dip cockroach, like, I have always been aggressive, take it or leave it, suck it up. If you're not in a growth mindset, then you're going to be pretty stuck at the lower levels of psychological health of the Enneagram. Whereas if you use the neuroplasticity and you say, actually, I probably have been hardwired that way, even my nurturing exacerbated that aggressiveness, perhaps. But I can choose to change. One of the best neuroscience books I ever read was Change Your Words to Change Your World. So you start changing how you talk to yourself and how I choose to be, because how you live, how you think, how you emotionally decode, it's all a choice. So if you can be more mindful around your choices, you can certainly, magnify the neuroplasticity.
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful, because if you know where you're stuck, if you know what the patterns are, you can then figure out, okay, this is what my natural molding is, and this is actually what I can work towards to try to be better in the ways that I show up. And that's good for yourself and the people around you as well. I consider myself a little bit of an Enneagram evangelist, because people love to tell me about horoscopes. You meet somebody and they go, oh, what are you? I'm with this. And that's sort of the determinant of the basis of our friendship. And I'm like, but there's so much more to life than just that. So can you tell us, some of your favorite things about the tangibility of the Enneagram and why this tool, more than anything else, works so well in helping people be more self-aware, exercise better EQ, but also grow in their journey of personal development?
So we are relational as humans. When we lived, decades ago, 2,000 years ago, we came together as tribes to survive, fight off that lion and get to that, warthog. So relationally, we are using the Enneagram every single day. So when I coach people, I coached a type 8 CEO last night. A type 3 CEO who was having problems with his type 8 direct report. And it's a relational issue. Yeah. And the minute he got to realize that actually this guy's got good input, if I can just see above and beyond what he says, yes, and help him change the how so that he too can influence other parts of the business. So to me, that's my favorite bit, is how we are with each other, this dance that we always have. And that dance, if you start to think about the other person's perspective plus your perspective, yes, it just is mind-blowing. You never, ever stop learning. I've been doing this for 30 years. And I get bored, as you know, easily. And this is still yummy to me.
Still engaged. You're still in it.
Yummy.
We have a minute to minute. You've got a webinar, masterclass next week, yes, right? So for people who are going, what are the bells and whistles of the Enneagram? What can people expect in the masterclass?
More depth. So they're going to get, this is the healthy version of the type. This is the unhealthy version of the type. And then practical me, what are the 3 things that get you up those layers to the healthy version?
I love that. Thank you so much, Joni, Peddie, everybody. And if you do want to find out more on how to utilize the Enneagram in your daily life, do connect with her on her website. And we're still here for more HybriCON, so stay tuned for more insightful and engaging episodes.